moving your arm a little bit so I can get up? Is that okay?
My history with developer Compulsion Games goes way back to launch day PlayStation 4 and only Contrast and Resogun to play on it. I found the experience captivating and unique in some pretty remarkable ways. Around this time, indie games were taking on a life of their own, and a community was starting to emerge from these projects. All this to say that I'm glad to see this team in a position where they can still work on creative experiences even under the Microsoft first-party umbrella. South of Midnight leads further into the creative character and world designs that this team has been delivering for years. Still, it's clear that the increased budget available to the team has given them a path forward toward environmental immersion, something that I felt was missing in their previous projects. I don't doubt that they have what it takes to deliver clever gameplay mechanics and well-rounded story arcs, but it's nice to see this team do something outside of their wheelhouse. From its initial reveal, South of Midnight has been steadily evolving into something that I think is what it actually is. I know that sounds pretty vague, but I was only able to discover this after getting the opportunity to play through an early chapter of the game, so let's unpack my experience.
What? Back here again? Mama?
I hate this thing. It's like cracking open Pandora's box. It's so hard for me to not take my feelings home to Hazel afterwards.
South of Midnight follows Hazel, a girl who has really been put through the ringer after a hurricane swept her home away down a river, along with her mother. To save her, she kicks it into high gear and sets off down the river, where a fated encounter with a spirit introduces her to a fantastical world. Hazel discovers she has the ability of a weaver through visions of weavers who came before her. She steadily learns new skills that help her with traversal and combat. I'm missing a lot of the finer details because I wasn't able to play from the beginning of the game, so please bear with me. My adventure with Hazel begins in Chapter 3, where a giant catfish requests her help, and in return, he'll help her find her mom. Now, I was under the impression that this game followed a more Ratchet and Clank style approach to level exploration and progression. You know, get from a point A to point B using an arsenal of abilities to platform through sections swiftly until you have to fight a few enemies. Instead, South of Midnight is a little more intentional with its execution. The team uses the environments to slow the player down in certain sections to give them background on the current objective, even though some of the narrative dips into some dark places. This has an enormous effect on the player in the realm of immersion. There are points in the chapter where I felt just as helpless as Hazel was when resolving an issue, but feeling like only half the work is done. The act of moving on and keeping your goals in focus is a very real struggle, and I'm surprised whenever these fantastical narratives weaves back into real-world lessons. In that same breath, I felt comfortable in this place given that some of the themes of this adventure borrow inspirations from films such as The Labyrinth and The Wizard of Oz. Narrative and world building aside, gameplay is a significant part of this game, and it's something that I hope receives a few tweaks before release. In terms of platforming, Jesus Christ, this game is good. Now I have some feedback, but honestly platforming in this game feels incredible, and Hazel is able to utilize the power of this weaving. This gives her the ability to push, pull, and thread up objects and enemies. While navigating the environments, you can push things around out of the way to form new paths or find secrets, or you can thread up an object to access new sections. The confusing part for me is how Hazel can't shoot threads to create platforms while in the air. Yes, I guess like Spider-Man. While navigating the platforming sections, again, very fun. You have to create platforms in front of you, but you can also do this while on the ground, essentially forcing you to slow down while you have a groove. Given how incredible the platforming feels to control, this team must ensure that nothing stops Hazel's momentum. Now, when it comes to combat, I see what the team is doing, and I don't know if it's going to work in its current iteration. Basic attacks are tied to one button. Listen, I get it, accessibility should be top of the mind for action games, and given this is a first-party game from a smaller studio, ensuring players of all skill levels can enjoy it is a no-brainer. However, I can't begin to tell you how much I wish for another button to press while fighting, just to feel like I was doing something between skill cooldowns. It's possible to use points found around the map to improve Hazel's skills, but attacks are still tied to one button, so it's just kinda dull. What's interesting is that the combat is kinda still challenging. Dodging feels great, and a perfect dodge causes damage to enemies. Enemies themselves appear in small waves, but the combat is built around crowd control, so you'll need to time your abilities because wasting them or missing them might leave you with a game over or simply smashing X till the cooldown is over. Once an enemy is defeated, you have to use the Y button to untether the enemy and fully destroy them, granting some health in the process, I think. I'm not really sure what untethering does or if it benefits Hazel yet. What I hope to see in later chapters is the combat really come together and lean into Hazel's abilities more. I should be able to tether enemies together and cause group damage, or I don't know, tether an enemy, make them fight for me for a brief period, or for the love of God, make a Y button a basic attack or tether whip or something, because this button is just sitting around there in combat doing nothing, begging to be used. I'm not a game designer, and there could be some reasons that are way over my head, but as to why combat is tied to one button, I don't know. But the fact that this works is fun and challenging all at the same time, and we have a wealth of possibilities through Hazel's abilities, leaves me some hope that there are some surprises in store. South of Midnight is an incredibly gorgeous action platformer that has really surprised me with how tight and responsive its platforming is. The narrative design choices and depth of overarching lore had me engrossed in the narrative pacing, and I was surprised at how invested I was by the end of the chapter. I just see so much more potential in the gameplay portions. Don't slow the player down, and trust that you made a game with the right amount of challenge. But give the player a chance to meet the challenge with their own abilities. South of Midnight has become a game on my list that I want to see through, and if anything, to spend more time in its beautifully dreary, swampy lands. South of Midnight looks ahead to release on April 8th of 2025 for PC and Xbox Series X and S. Thank you for watching. Noisy Pixel is a group of gamers who work hard to deliver news, reviews, previews, and more. Please subscribe to keep up with all of our future content. I'll see you on the next one, nerds. Thank you for watching again.
Okay, what crazy thing is about to happen now?
I assume your first time in Yui was a bit eventful?
Oh yeah, you could have warned me about the fog.
Fog? Oh, that fog. Yes. Must have slipped my mind. I'm a tad dehydrated. You get a pattern?
Yeah, I didn't expect it to be so personal.
Secrets are a terrible burden. That's why I'm so eager to help. By listening.
Okay, so what do I have to do to help Benji so I can get you down, so I can save my mama?
Use that pattern to fix that big old tangle. You'll need to reweave Benji too. But first things first, go fix that tangle.
His fate was so cruel. He saw things so different, branded a fool. He found trouble often, each place we'd go. He didn't know that this was the end. He was my brother, Benji his name. He saw things different, he was my shame. And I said goodbye, I said farewell. I took my hammer, my ticket to hell.
Excuse me? Benji?
The locals got angry, left traps out for him. Threw rocks, started shouting, his prospects were grim. Easy to blame Benji, my mother's favorite son. For her and my family, my plan had begun. Let's play together. You go and hide in a cypress tree hollow. It was safe and dry. He trusted me fully. I nailed him inside. He thought we were playing, that was a lie. He was my
Sorry to be
brother,
moving you around like this.
Benji his name. He saw things different, he was my shame. And I said goodbye, I said farewell. I took my hammer, my ticket to hell. He was my brother, Benji his name. He saw things different, he was my shame. And I said goodbye, I said farewell. I took my hammer, my ticket to hell.
Voice Pixel.